On Quality Digest Live, we chat with retiring Baldrige Program Director Harry Hertz, who says, "Take my job, please."
Way to go, Harry. Okay. Plus, are unfinished, meaningless projects shambling around your office like the living dead? Shoot them in the head once and for all. We'll show you how when we come back.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for March 29th, 2013. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Director Sharm, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher Mike Richmond. In a few minutes, we're going to be talking to outgoing Baldrige Program Director Harry Hertz. And if you want to send us questions right now for Harry, we encourage you to do so. We've got a couple, I think, that are queuing up already. You can email us at qdl@qualitydigest.com, and we will try to get them on the air with Harry. We have Harry for a small segment today, so we may not be able to get to all of them, but we'll do our best. Okay, so starting off with the news. Dirk, you've seen those green light laser pointers, right?
Sure. No, I have. Yeah.
The red light ones are more prevalent.
But I've seen the green ones.
But the green light ones are out there as well. Well, according to a recent research conducted by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, these things are a little more dangerous, a little more hazardous than maybe previously thought.
Ow.
No. In a presentation last week at the International Laser Safety Conference in Orlando, Florida, it was revealed that red as well as green light pointers both often emit more power than is permitted under the Code of Federal Regulations. In fact, of the 122 devices that NIST tested, 90% of the green pointers and 44% of the red pointers were out of compliance with these regulations. The highest tested device is interesting, was more than 10 times beyond the limit in terms of measured power output. Green pointers in particular often emitted unacceptably high levels of infrared light. According to the American National Standards Institute, laser devices emitting power and infrared light at these levels require a classification beyond Class 3A or 3R, which is how most of these devices are currently labeled. The devices are most commonly used casually in training settings and or classrooms, but again, according to ANSI, to be used safely, more rigorous controls, including operator training, is likely needed. Now, how many people have gotten trained?
Yes. Now, before you use your laser pointer, we have to take you through this little safety prepresentation.
But what ANSI is saying is that may very well be necessary. These things are a little more hazardous, again.
OSHA steps in and says, I'm sorry, you're out of compliance with your laser pointer.
You have to be aware of it. So for more information on this news item, as well as the other news pieces and features that Dirk and I are going to be covering on today's show, just check out the story links right down there below the player page, and you can go right out there.
Are you serious? Safety training?
No, that's what they're saying. I mean, these things are dangerous. You don't want to just stick it in somebody's eye, you know? I mean, you never know.
All right. Okay. Speaking of control.
Yes.
Okay, do you need to control the delivery of insulin? Or maybe take an electrocardiogram at a moment's notice? Well, hey, there's an app for that. That's right, for all of you with smartphones. And trust me, don't think that the FDA hasn't noticed the apps. According to an article we ran this week by Christy L. Foreman, Director of the Office of Device Evaluation at the FDA Center for Devices and Radiological Health, the FDA is Hip Dapps. They're hanging with the cool kids.
Oh, yeah, the FDA. They know what they're doing.
They know what's that.
Oh, yeah. Right on.
Daniel's shaking his head in shame back there, I know. I've embarrassed him. Okay,
he'll be
but
out
seriously, musicians, what do you say? Seriously, though, the FDA, for obvious reasons, does want to have some say in mobile apps that are starting to perform some of the functions that more traditional regulated medical devices do. However, says Foreman, quote, "We have no intention of stifling innovation in this exciting and rapidly growing field." So, according to Foreman, few apps would need FDA review. However, if a mobile app is going to do the job of a medical device that already requires FDA clearance or approval, it's only logical, says Foreman, that both should be governed by the same rules. So what kind of apps are we talking about? Well, we mentioned the insulin and the ECG. I didn't know there were apps for that, but apparently there are. But there's also apps for stethoscopes. A mobile medical app that takes patient-specific information and gives the doctor radiation dosage calculations. And mobile medical apps that allow doctors to view X-rays or other imaging on smartphones and tablets. I think there's missing an app there.
Which is?
Well, I think pretty soon smartphones are going to start coming with like little, prongs.
Okay, that's a little scary, but all right.
So like a little shock, right? And I think there should be a defibrillator app.
Oh, okay. Just put your
just like you need two phones, obviously. Clear.
That would be interesting.
There's an app for that. Hey, if you're not using it for that, it's just kind of another type of ringer. You can put your phone on vibrate. you just put it on shock.
Dirk, I think the FDA people right now are saying no. Don't listen to Dirk. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's very irresponsible with that.
Guess that one wouldn't pass. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Dirk. Thank you, Christy L. Foreman, for that piece. Good stuff there about the apps and the FDA. Okay.
All right.
Well, we're going to move on now to our feature articles for the week, and we're going to start off with an interview with one of the really good guys in our industry who's retiring after 21 years in the job. And hey, maybe any of you could replace him.
They're looking.
I'm speaking, of course, about longtime Baldrige program director Harry Hertz, also known as the Baldrige Cheermudgeon. Cheermudgeon. That's good stuff right there. Harry is officially retiring on June 3rd, and the search is on right now for his replacement. To find out more about the state of the Baldrige program and what the organization is looking for in the next director, we're joined now by the man himself, Harry Hertz. Welcome, Harry.
Thank you. Glad to be with you today.
We're happy to have you. Thank you again. And Harry, we ask people to send us questions. We actually do have a couple, but before we get into them, I want to start with just basically the basics of this. What does the job of the Baldrige program director entail? What goes into that?
Well, basically, the program director is leading a program with international reach. It's a program where you have to work with diverse U.S. partners, with international partners, in programs like ours around the globe, where you have to motivate and lead a tremendous corps of thousands of volunteers who really do the bulk of the work of the Baldrige program. And then in the end, you are the steward for the ethics of the program as well as the steward for the Baldrige criteria, which are the intellectual property of the program.
So as you said, kind of the rallying of the troops, the cheering element of that, the cheermudgeon is a big part of this. I mean, it really is a big part of motivating the people that are out there in the field doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cheermudgeon is a very accurate description. You have to be a cheerleader for the program, for many of the volunteers, but you also have to be able to question management practices, questioning what you observe, and then use that in building the leading edge of validated management practice.
So now the Baldrige is going into having right now their 25th anniversary. It's amazing. It's been 25 years,
wow,
really incredible. Yeah. And you've been there for most of that time, Harry. You've been there for the lion's share of that. So what's your personal experience with it over the course of that time, over the course of 2+ decades? How has the Baldrige program changed and improved during your time with the program?
Well, I mean, I think it's changed dramatically. Hopefully it's improved. Others will tell me that. But I think the most basic change in the program over the 25 years is that it's really evolved from an award program to a national education program. So in the early days, we focused strictly on the award process and identifying award recipients. Now, really, the use of the criteria is much more for organizations to improve performance, whether or not they ever apply for the award. And there are many, many more organizations using the criteria for that purpose than for award application. So I think that's the most significant change. I think in looking at what the program is about, the most significant change over the 25 years is that we've moved from a set of criteria and a program that was really about manufacturing quality and product and process excellence in the manufacturing process to a program that's about overall organizational excellence appropriate to any organization in the U.S. or even globally. And of course, along with that, over the 25 years, we've gone from an award process that recognized only businesses to one that now covers the whole economy, including healthcare, education, and nonprofit, including government.
I'm sorry, hearing something in my comm set here. Harry, tell us about some of the, you guys are looking for, obviously, somebody to come in and replace you. What are some of the skills and competencies that the next director will need, do you think?
Well, I think given our current funding situation, the next director will certainly have to have entrepreneurial skills to work better in development of new products and services that we can offer to the economy, basically. In addition, as has always been the case, the new director will have to be a community builder, obviously working with all the diverse communities we work with. The new director will have to be effective at communication in all sorts of different audiences. And the new director will have to be the criteria steward, as I think I already mentioned. So that director is, in the end, the person who's responsible for defining the criteria which we say reflect at any given time the leading edge of validated management practice. Finally, I think the new director, as I believe I was, is responsible for the ethics of the program, because obviously with all the proprietary information we see and with the large community we work with, we live or die on the ethics of the program, and fortunately we live based on the ethics of the program right now.
Hey, Harry, I want to get a couple of viewer questions in here right now. I think we had a couple that come in. If Christopher, you can put those up on the screen there. We'll take a quick look. Is your optimism still strong that the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award Toolkit will increase in use in educational systems here in the USA as we work for continuing improvements in our school programs?
Yeah, I'm still optimistic about it. Obviously, in the last 5 to 10 years, the growth in healthcare has been much greater than it has been in healthcare, absolutely dominating healthcare today. I'm hoping we'll see the same in education in the future, and I think as we see more and more accreditation vehicles looking at Baldrige, which is what we are seeing now, it will also bring Baldrige more into common use in educational systems. So, excuse me, I think that we will see continued growth in education, and that actually is the next big frontier for the Baldrige program.
Okay, I think we've got another question here. Do we, Christopher? Okay. As the Baldrige Award and related tools building quality opportunities moves forward in the years to come, do you see increased uses by small businesses? Will the U.S. SBA further embrace Baldrige principles?
Yeah, I mean, we've always seen strong use by small businesses. A lot of that comes through the state programs, because obviously small businesses have much more opportunity for networking and learning and impact within their geographic domain, within their states. So I think we'll continue to see that. We have been working with the Association of Small Business Development Centers, which of course works very closely with the Small Business Administration, and are looking to strengthen our partnership with them and to strengthen the offerings through the Small Business Development Centers that relate to Baldrige. So I think we will see growing use in small businesses.
So Harry, what's next for you? You're retiring again, as we said, on June 3rd. What are you looking forward to after that period of time? What are you going to be doing for the rest of this year and going forward?
Well, first, I think I have to at least plug what I'm going to be doing between now and June 3rd, and one of the things I'm really looking forward to is our 25th anniversary Quest for Excellence conference, which begins a week from now, April 7th through 10th. So I hope I'll actually get to see many of your viewers at the conference and be able to talk to them personally. So after June 3rd, what's on the radar screen? Excuse me.
It's okay.
Wow, having a...
You're getting all choked up about it already.
Yeah, I'm getting all choked up about it. So after June 3rd, I'd like to do some teaching. I enjoy interacting with college students and MBA students, so I'd like to do some more of that. I want to spend more time with my grandchildren, and I plan on continuing to stay involved with Baldrige. Obviously, when you've given so many years of your life to the program, you want to see it continue and thrive, and you want to be part of it.
Hear, hear. Well, thanks, Harry. Thank you again. And yes, we remind everybody to look out for the Quest for Excellence Conference in April. And I believe we have linked Harry's Baldrige post about this, and you can check that out below the player page right there. And I think that within that Baldrige post, Harry, I think that there's methods for people to contact the organization if they're interested in chatting about your job going forward.
There is.
Great. Well, thanks again, Harry. We really appreciate you joining us. Thank you for many, many great years of service to the Baldrige. You've really been somebody that we all look up to, and
that's right.
We thank you for joining us.
Well, and thank you for the opportunity once again to chat with you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Harry.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, so
turning to one of your favorite topics.
The apocalyptic thread. Okay, I knew that was going to happen.
You know, because I can't say
get more than 3 syllables, I tell you. The apocalyptic threat of undead projects. There we go. That is the title about an article we ran this week about projects that just won't die.
Like zombies.
Like zombies, exactly.
Like zombies.
Like zombies.
You know,
We've got like zombies down here.
Look at these. See this one right here? This is a zombie dog, which is great. I think it's awesome. He's got a little hand in his mouth right there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, that's what some of your projects are like. These are projects that never die. They seem to go on forever without ever possessing the priority or resources to finally launch. Or the projects that are constantly redirected or redefined so that we never really make any meaningful progress, right? So, and you know, actually sometimes they're just projects that are put on hold, then back into action, then back on hold for eternity. And there's a lot of reasons for this to happen. I mean, you guys could probably give us reasons of your own, but here's a few. Sometimes you're borrowing resources from these long-term projects in order to enable short-term kind of no-brainer projects. Let's say the low-hanging fruit. One of those comes along, and so, well, we got to take care of this first, kind of the tyranny of the urgent, and we take care of these short-term projects, and the long-term projects kind of get pushed back. Sometimes it's simply a failure to prioritize properly. Sometimes, you know, a project just simply changes direction. It's going one way, then it changes, and it goes another, and it kind of gets lost in the flow. And here's a big one. Sometimes your priorities or your opportunities disappear or change. And I think this is probably the most prevalent one. You'll have a project, it seems important at the time, maybe it is important at the time, maybe you're responding to a perceived need or an actual need from, let's say, your customer base. And the project doesn't get off the ground right away, and by the time you start to approach the project, all of a sudden those opportunities or those needs don't seem to be there, so the project just kind of languishes. So, you know, there's really nothing wrong with the stuff I mentioned above. I mean, you know, stuff happens, right? I mean, the problem is the reluctance we often have to let projects go, to kill them off, or to stay with our zombie metaphor, to shoot them in the head. Sometimes the reason we're reluctant to kill them off is because we've already invested so much time in a project that we can't just flush that money down the drain. And the irony of this, of course, is that if we keep the project going and we just continue flushing money down the drain, it's kind of the good money after bad thing, right? Yeah. So, I mean, at some point you really have to make a choice, right? You either have to kill off your project and kind of put it out of its misery, or you got to fund it and prioritize it and get it back on track. And all of this is easier said than done. Particularly, I think, with a small company. If we look at ourselves here, we've got a lot of innovative people here. We come up with ideas all the time, and some of these do actually make it onto the drawing board. And like what we're talking here, some of these make it onto the drawing board and stay on the drawing board for a long time. We're well aware of this problem. Is how do you deal with projects? Yeah, you don't really want to let them go, but you don't have the resources maybe to deal with them.
Well, I think that this is not often a black and white issue. It's not often a case where, okay, you have a project and you've invested resources and it has no value anymore, so you're just going to kill it, or you're going to keep it going for no reason other than you just invested. That doesn't happen very much. I think what happens more often is, from my experience, is that you have a project and there clearly is value. There clearly is some spectrum of value, whether it be a great amount of value or a little amount of value, and you need to decide how much value you really can expect out of finishing the project. And if you make the decision that it's going to obviously be a little bit of value, maybe you can kill it. It's very hard, as you say, after you've invested a lot of time and money and resources, to pull the plug on it. Sometimes you have to. I think that you want to determine it based on again, what the potential value is, I think what the ceiling is and what the floor is.
Right.
What's the most value you could probably get out of it versus what's the minimum amount of value. It's not going to be no value. Obviously, you started the project for a reason.
Right.
So somebody at some point saw value in it. So there's going to be value if you do it right. But if you don't do everything that you intended, is there still some level of value? And if there is, yeah, you probably want to keep it going.
So I guess the upshot of the story is you really just have to stop and think about, you got to take a look at those projects that are languishing, and you've got to make a decision. You either got to scrub them, or you've got to prioritize them and get them back into the stream, I think. So.
And we're all project managers. And
right.
Quality project management is a key resource, and you need to understand how to keep those projects going and get the value out of them. So I think it's a good story by Alan Nickel, correct?
Alan Nickel, exactly.
Yep. Again, you can check that out right below the player page right there. Okay, well, we're going to move on now, and I want to throw up on the screen our tech corner. From Mark 10, and this week's Tech Corner again from our friends from Mark 10, and we're going to be showing off their TT02 Torque Tool Tester. And Dirk has an interesting Tech Corner for you now to show it off, so Dirk, take it away.
Yeah. Okay, so as Mike said, what we're going to look at today is the TT02 Torque Tool Tester from Mark 10. This is kind of along the same lines of some other torque and tension tools that we've seen from Mark 10. Very easy tool to use. It's a portable tool, battery operated. You can take it out into the shop floor and do torque tool setting, torque tool calibration, and so forth right out there on the shop floor. You can also use it actually in your, let's say, in-house calibration lab. It does have a 0.3% of full-scale accuracy, so it's perfectly fine for a lot of your torque tools. So I'm just going to dive right into this here. If we go back to our gauge cam here, this is the unit. You can see it right here. The menu functions are very similar to other tools that we've used from Mark 10. I'm going to set this up as a go, no-go gauge. And we can look here. We have our set points. We can come in here. We could set our upper limits, our lower limits. I can work my way down through the menu. I can set what units I want to work in. This happens to be set to Newton meters, but we can also do Newton centimeters, pound foot, ounce inches, pound inches. We have it set to Newton meters. We'll leave it there. And the other thing that you probably would most likely set is your break detection. And there's some functions here that we'll get into in just 1 second, but break detection is typically what you're going to use for a torque wrench. So let's back this back out, and we'll stay on our gauge cam here. There's several modes that this operates in. One is just the real-time mode. It's exactly what it sounds like. If we see our display here, if I turn this, you'll see we're showing our torque in the display, but we're also showing, if you see that little arrow up there, it's pointing to the right, meaning we're turning clockwise. If I turn it the other way, there's our torque reading and telling us that we are counterclockwise. We also have a peak clockwise mode, which is exactly what that sounds like. It simply remembers and displays the highest value in that direction. And we have the same thing in peak counterclockwise, and then we have break detection, which is really what I want to show you right now. Break detection is simply a way of storing and remembering the peak value just before the torque wrench slipped. Now I'm going to do this with an electric torque wrench. You can see that here. Before I use the electric torque wrench, I'm going to put a little damping device. If we were to use this torque wrench directly in here, because it's electric, it ramps up so fast that it might give us a false reading, an inaccurate reading on the TT02. So this little spring kind of damps it down a little bit and gives it enough time to kind of propagate that torque through. So I'm simply going to zero this out, and I'm going to take a torque reading. And you can see, whoops, there we go. You can do that again. And you can see here our torque reading was 2.29 Newton meters. I can store that data. You can store up to 1,000 readings in the TT02. We'll zero it, and we can just do it again. There we go, 2.2 within the limits of this particular wrench. And that's using an electric torque wrench. Now, we can also do a go, no-go. And we could do that in the brake mode that I'm showing here. I'm actually going to show you the go, no-go in the peak clockwise. I'm just going to zero that out. Now, with a go, no-go gauge, the TT02 will give you a visual representation of whether you are within the limits that you've already programmed in here. So a little down arrow means we're below our lower limit. If I get a square in here, it means I'm within limits. And if I get an up arrow, it means I've gone above my upper limit. So we'll just take this torque wrench and we'll, okay, you see I got a little square box. I'm reading 1.2 Newton meters. This is actually set for 1.2 meters, so we're well within spec. I can zero that out. We can just do that again to show you again. And so obviously we are in spec on this tool. So that is a go, no-go gauge. Very easy to use, especially out on the shop floor. The last thing I want to show you is even though you don't have to necessarily use this with software, this works perfectly fine by itself. And actually for torque tool setting and calibration, you would probably most likely always just use this by itself. But there is some software from Mark 10 called Measure Gauge. It's kind of the software that they use for a variety of their products. I happen to be in it right now. We have got a screenshot, and let me make sure we're properly set up here. Now, one thing that you might do with this is you might simply use the digital display. And the digital display on this is simply a representation of what is already on the unit. So as I make, tell it to start. There we go. Start acquiring data. And this is simply reflecting what I'm seeing on the display. So it gives you a nice big representation of, let me move my mouse, center that there. There you go. So now we've got a nice big representation of what's going on. That might be convenient for maybe training purposes. We can also do some data acquisition. And kind of the setup I like to do is we're going to set this up to start taking data when we've reached a threshold of, let's say, 0.5 Newton meters. We're going to stop taking data when we detect a break. And in our case, a break is when we've reached 49% of the maximum value. And we'll just go over to our data acquisition, and we will start that. And let me center our screen here. Now, I'm twisting the gauge, but nothing happens until I get at least 0.5 Newton meters. Now it starts collecting data, and it will collect data until it detects a break. So now it detected a break. We can see our peak right here. We can actually go in and delve into this data a little bit more. We have a little cursor. We could measure any point along the way we wanted. Doesn't make much sense maybe for this type of torque gauge. However, if you had a click type torque gauge, you might want to see two peaks in order to see what's happening with that gauge. And of course, this data can be exported, and there's a certain amount of statistical analysis and so forth that you can do with it as well. So basically, this is the gauge in a nutshell. It lists for $11.95, a little under $1,200, I believe. That's what it says on the Mark 10 website. It's the TT02 Torque Tool Tester. Great shop floor tool. If you're doing a lot of tool setting where you have to set your torque gauges out on the shop floor, it's really well worth the investment. So once again, thanks to Mark 10 for sending that to us. And if you want to see more on this, there is a link below the player page.
There you go, and there you have it. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you, Mark 10, for sending us the TT02 Torque Tool Tester for this week's Tech Corner. Good job, Dirk, as always, with that. And, you know, we have next week coming up. If you like that, we have next week coming up a whole show devoted to gauging called Gauging Quality.
That's right.
Episode 3 on air gauging this time.
This is going to be an interesting show. Yeah. We're going to compare kind of some typical measurement routines, measurement processes that you might use to measure, let's say, interior diameter, outside diameter, taper, let's say linearity of a hole, you know, is a hole straight or not. And we're going to show how you might do this using, let's say, your traditional tools. And we're also going to show you how much easier it is to use it, do these using an air gauge. We'll also kind of cover a little bit of the kind of the technology behind air gauging, kind of how it works and so forth. So you want to join us for that show. It's 45 minutes long. If you have any questions related to air gauging or measurement in general, send them to us. It'll be me and Craig Howell from CPM Labs in Rancho Cordova, California. Craig is our metrology expert, and he is always with us here on the show during those gauging qualities. So.
That's right, episode 3. So that's next Thursday, April 4th. It's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And if you do have any questions now about air gauging, again, as Dirk mentioned, or measurement in general, send them to us at techno-live@qualitydigest.com. All right, well, that's our show. Thank you again. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you to Harry Hertz very much.
Absolutely.
For joining us. Great guy. Thank you to Mark 10.
Good luck, Harry.
Yes, good luck, Harry. We love you, man. Great job there. Thank you to Mark 10 for sending us a great Tech Corner demo piece. And thank you all for being with us. And we will see you again next week for another week of QDD, and next Thursday for Engaging Quality, and next Friday here for Quality Digest Live.
That's right.
Thanks. See you next week.
Brains.
Brains.
Brains.